This is On Air with EUFOREA.
Hello everybody, I'm Wytske Fokkens. I'm Professor of Otorhinolaryngology in Amsterdam, in the Amsterdam University Medical Centers in the Netherlands. And it's a great pleasure to have Professor Anju Peters here from Northwestern in Chicago, the US. And we're going to talk about chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps, but not before you introduce yourself, Anju.
Sure, it's my pleasure. I am a professor of medicine at Northwestern University in Chicago, Illinois. I'm the director of clinical research in the Division of Allergy Immunology. I'm also the director of clinical research for the Northwestern University Clinical and Translational Sciences Institute. And I have a major interest in chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps, or as we lovingly call it, CRSwNP.
Yeah, thank you very much. What I would love to hear from you is how do you see our near future, but also a little bit further away? We live in fantastic times with the possibility of the last 3-4 years to treat patients with independently of their lower airway disease with biologics. And I think that has been the biggest change since nasal steroids in the end of the 70s. But of course, there's always something to wish in life. And what are your wishes for your patients in the next decade?
As you mentioned, this has been just an exciting time for our patients with CRS with nasal polyps. Previously, we had topical steroids. They had surgery, and many do just fine with surgery. But as you've shown and others have shown, there's a subset of patients who, despite getting surgery, their nasal polyps come back, their sense of smell may not come back or comes back temporarily, and they still suffer from a lot of symptoms, which are very bothersome, especially the nasal congestion. Imagine not being able to breathe through your nose on a regular basis. So I think the most exciting thing is that we have now biologics that target the inflammation that exists in chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps. These biologics have done an amazing job. Patients can smell better, they're less congested, may not need repeat surgery. Most of us feel, because these biologics are very expensive, potentially have to be given long-term, that most patients with nasal polyps should get at least one good surgery. But if despite surgery and appropriate management medically, they have disease, then these biologics have just been amazing treatment option for our patients.
And what do we have to still to improve? What's left?
So there's still quite a bit left to improve. So polyps in general in the Western population are what we call 90% are type 2 inflammation, and these biologics target that type 2 inflammation, but it doesn't target it completely. There are those who do not respond. There are those that we say are super responders and do great, but others don't have a complete response. We also, some of these are injections given every 2 weeks, some are given every 4 weeks. That's not something that a lot of patients want to do long term. When these biologics are stopped, disease tends to come back. We don't know who's going to respond to which biologic. We don't have good biomarkers. So in the ideal world, our biologics would target not just type 2 inflammation in the Western population, but some of the mixed inflammation and the non-type 2 inflammation elsewhere in the world. And hopefully these biologics could be given less often, maybe every 6 months. Potentially we'll have better biomarkers to tell us who would respond to which one. We have a new one currently being studied that's approved for asthma, but will be new for polyps, hopefully. And hopefully we'll have better targets and we'll understand not just the nasal polyp inflammation and inflammation in our sinuses, but many of these patients have other comorbidities. So potentially our treatment options will target those comorbidities as well as nasal polyps in the long run.
You said earlier that patients suffer a lot. Do you also have the experience that not only patients, but also healthcare professionals and the payers usually have very little understanding of what the disease actually means?
I think that's very true. So chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps, these are polyps that are in your sinus cavities extending by where your sinuses drain. You may not see them. So sometimes, especially primary care physicians may think, oh, this person's complaining of congestion, has a little bit of allergies, or has some cold. They're over-the-counter medications and may discount that person's symptoms. But not being able to breathe through your nose, not only does it affect your day-to-day living, your sleep is affected, your work is affected. If you're a student, your school's affected, your social relationships are affected. And often these patients also have lower airway disease with asthma, and sometimes even more with bronchiectasis. And potentially then their asthma's not as well controlled if their sinuses are not well controlled. So definitely we feel like patients suffer, their family members understand, some of the specialists who manage these diseases understand. However, we need to increase awareness with the primary care physicians, with the payers, especially because biologics, surgery, these are all expensive treatment options. However, it affects quality of life. And if in our society, if we can afford this, and hopefully we can do this better where they won't need to be on it long term, I hope payers understand and pay for this. And one of the ways to increase awareness of chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps, there is a global Nasal Polyp Awareness Day, which is April 24th. And I'm actually hoping that in the U.S. we can celebrate this and increase awareness of this disease with our patients, our payers, and our primary care physicians.
Yes, I think that's really important. Ask patients to tell caretakers and payers what the impact of the disease is in their daily life. And especially, you mentioned already congestion, but also smell, of course, is I was really struck by a patient last year at the Awareness Day who said, if I would be blind or deaf, nobody would argue that a treatment with this size of costs would be worth it. And now I miss this, for me, terribly important sense. And of course, there is a lot more than the taste of your food and that you can't smell danger. There's also all these subconscious the reactions to smells. Imagine how, if you smell something, what memories that it brings or the worries that it brings. And I thought her mentioning was perfect, saying, why is this sense so neglected and not taken seriously, although it affects my life terribly?
Oh, totally. Congestion and loss of smell are two of the things our patients complain about the most. And similar to your experience, a patient on our most recent U.S. guidelines said that biologics brought back her sense of smell, reduced the congestion. And when we said it was a potentially conditional treatment, that it was a treatment that didn't have to be for everyone, her point was, let the patient also decide as to what's important to the patient. So smell, it goes with taste, enjoying. Food is such a big part of all our lives. And if you can't taste, which smell and taste goes together, then I feel like you're not enjoying an important part of our lives.
Well, thank you very much for answering these questions. And I'm sure we will have many talks in the future again.
Oh, I would love to participate. Thank you.
This was brought to you by EUFOREA, inspiring the future of respiratory care. This podcast was supported by an unrestricted educational grant from Sanofi Regeneron.